morning. All right. I apologize for the light. I think you can see me in the bottom corner of your screen, and the light is pretty poor, and I apologize for that. I don't have the equipment to make the videos really awesome, so I'm sorry. Anyway, all right, we're going to be in Heritage Studies, and we're going to continue in the chapter that we've been working in, which is Chapter 5. Remember, Chapter 5 is All That Glitters. Remember that we learned that, I believe it was Shakespeare that said, all that glitters is not gold. Remember, he said that in one of his plays. And basically what that means is just because you see it and it looks great, well, and fine, doesn't really mean that that's the case. And that was the case during the very late 1800s into the early 1900s in America. Everything looked all great, well, and fine, but wasn't so much the case, which we will find out why. But in the meantime, we're going to find out, continue talking about the things that Americans did during their free time, because they had a lot more free time now than they've ever had before. Lots more free time because we had inventions that were doing a lot of the work for them. Remember some of those things we talked about? Okay, so we've learned about some of the things that they did for entertainment and some of the inventions we learned early on in the chapter. Remember the typewriter, the light bulb, the telephone, the shoe laster that made making shoes easier. We talked about how school changed. Remember how colleges changed because the colleges prior to this time would teach history as in plays and literature and that kind of thing. And now they're having to start teaching more about how to use things, how to do things, and how to live, a daily life and do a particular trade because things were changing. So we learned about the arts and the press, lots of paintings, plays, things like that, music, writing, newspapers came up during this time. People were putting lots of stuff in there. So today we're going to talk about their actual leisure time. So I'm going to lead into the lesson and say, what kind of things do you do in your leisure time? What's something you like to do? You don't have any chores to do. You're finished with school. You don't have any projects going on. You don't have to go anywhere. Leisure time. I would go so far as to say that you most likely play the video game. Maybe you play on the computer. I'm not sure what you're allowed to do. Perhaps you watch TV, or maybe you listen to music. Do you read books? I bet you don't. Most kids don't like to read books these days. I used to not ever like to read books, and then all of a sudden I just started like to read them, and so I read my Bible. My Bible is actually my favorite book, but I read novels too, especially before my kids read them, so I can know if they should read them or not. So lots of people do lots of different things in their leisure time. So let's look in your reader book on page 124, and you'll notice what I have on the screen: Buffalo Bill's Wild West and Congress of Rough Riders in the World. All right, so let's look at this and we'll find out what this means on the screen. Now, remember what you have to do with me. You have to follow along. Just like you're reading, you have to read it, but I'll read it to you, okay? All right, many Americans now had something that had been hard to find in years past. They had leisure time. They also had more money to spend on entertainment. Americans in the Gilded Age found many ways to relax and enjoy themselves. America's big cities now had theaters and opera houses. People crowded into them to watch plays, concerts, operas, and shows. A type of theater called vaudeville became popular. Vaudeville shows were made up of short acts. Acrobats, clowns, dancers, jugglers, trained animals, they all had parts in the vaudeville shows. Another popular event to see was Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Buffalo Bill was a nickname for William Cody. Cody had been a buffalo hunter, a cowboy, and a soldier in battles with the Indians. He decided to put together a traveling show about life in the West. His show presented the West as an exciting adventure. It had gunfights, cowboy stunts and staged battles between whites and Indians. That's what you see on this page here. This would be, I guess, Buffalo Bill, and this is a real gun, I'm assuming, but nothing, I guess, blanks or whatever coming out of it, because this would be a staged show. So they're actually just staging it. Cody's show was not always truthful about Western life, but it did draw crowds. A favorite performer in the Wild West show was Annie Oakley, and there's a picture on page 124 at the bottom. That's a picture of Annie Oakley. She was a female gunslinger. Oakley had never actually lived out west, but she had trained herself to be an expert at shooting guns. She amazed the crowds with her good aim. She could snuff out candles, hit moving targets, and split cards in two with her rifle. What do you think she did in her leisure time? I have a sneaking suspicion I know what she did. Look at the next page. You see at the very top of page 125 that big area, the Coney Island. Remember, we talked about that early on. This is a postcard. It's a picture of a postcard from 1919. There's a swimming pool right there at Steeplechase Park, one of the largest amusement parks on Coney Island. Let's read this page. America's first amusement park was developed on the coast near New York City. Coney Island began as a vacation spot in the mid-1800s. Over time, it became a large park with a variety of rides, games, and sideshows. Soon after the Ferris wheel was introduced in Chicago, Coney Island had one too. It also had the first roller coaster. The rides and shows were cheap enough that even the working class people could afford them. The first hot dogs were made and sold at Coney Island. People liked to eat them along with a brand new fizzy drink called Coca-Cola. Public parks had also become popular places to spend free time. Big cities had parks designed by men with an eye for landscape. Trees, benches, walkways, and roads made parks pleasant places. People went to parks to rest, read, stroll, or drive a carriage. Public parks were free to people of any social class to enjoy. They had lots more free time then, didn't they? Flip the page over. Okay, look at this bicycle at the top of page 126. How would you like to ride a high-wheeler? No thanks. There's a thing under it that says high-wheelers, which is that picture above, were dangerous because they often tipped the rider forward, landing him on his head. So then they decided to make the wheels the same, just like the picture down there on the bottom. How would you like to ride a high-wheeler? No, thank you. Let's read on this page and find out about some more things that they would do. Several new sports began during the Gilded Age. Many people played sports. Others went to watch sporting events. Baseball, basketball, and boxing all became popular sports to watch. The bicycle also became common around this time. Its design changed from one large and one small wheel to two wheels of the same size. This change made bicycles safer to ride. Even women began enjoying bicycle rides. They found bicycling to be a fun and healthy way to exercise. Some wore a new style of dress for riding called the bloomer costume. Bloomers were not the fashion for very long, but for a short time they helped women ride bikes without getting a long skirt caught in the chain. You see that woman in that picture on the bottom of page 126. She's got those little bloomers on. They're kind of like what women call capri today, like really short pants that come below the knee, but they bloomed out so that when they were standing up, they kind of look like a skirt, because it was not very nice for women not to wear skirts. In fact, women did not wear skirts. They always wore skirts in those days. But this kind of allowed them to be able to ride a bicycle and still look like they had a skirt on. Not all Americans joined in every new form of entertainment. Some Christians thought that there were dangers to guard against. A pastor named A.C. Dixon preached a sermon about Coney Island in a New York City church. He warned that some of its shows and activities were immoral. He believed they might draw Christian young people into sin. Christians in the late 1800s had to make choices about entertainment just as Christians do today. Rest and pleasure are gifts from God, but God did not mean for us to enjoy them in sinful ways. He meant for us to enjoy them only in ways that honor Him. Do you think that you could, even though you weren't there, do you think you could agree with that pastor, knowing what you know today? I have a feeling. I think that the internet is kind of the same. When I was a little girl, we didn't have internet. We didn't have cell phones or anything like that. And we did fine. We found other ways to enjoy our leisure time. And then as I got older and I began to have a family, then the internet came about, and the internet can be a wonderful tool, but it can also be extremely dangerous if it's not used in the right way. Video games too. Video games were out when I was a kid. I used to play Atari. I don't know if you've ever heard of an Atari. I played Atari, and I played the old Nintendos. That's what we had. And nowadays there's video games that are quite questionable. Would you agree? When I say questionable, I'm not so sure that they would be something you might want to be participating in if Jesus comes back. And that's something to always think of. Would I want to be doing this, or playing this, or watching this, or taking part in this if Jesus came back? Because we don't know when He's going to come back. And when He comes back, would you like for Him to find you doing some of the things that you do? I have to think about that myself a lot. And that keeps me a lot of times from doing things that I'm not supposed to do. Okay, let's go ahead and do our worksheet today. This is going to be one worksheet. It's going to be page 53 in your work text. So if you'll go ahead and get that out. There's a picture on that page of William F. Cody, a.k.a. that means also known as Buffalo Bill. The top of page 53. Okay, so let's just do this together, this page, because I'm not going to grade it. Number 1, we have to mark the correct answer. Now, I'm going to give you the answer, but I want you to say it first, okay? So it's like a game. All right, here we go. Which type of theater made up of short acts became popular during the Gilded Age? Opera, circus, vaudeville, sporting events. Did you say vaudeville? Because if you did, you're correct. Vaudeville. Have you ever heard of the Three Stooges? I like the Three Stooges. Not many women like the Three Stooges, but I like the Stooges because I used to watch them when I was a little girl with my dad, because my dad liked them. And now I like to watch them because it reminds me of when I was a little girl. Well, they started out in vaudeville, if you know anything about the Stooges. Number 2, what traveling show about life in the West became a popular event? Annie Oakley's Vaudeville, Buffalo Bill's Wild West Show, Buffalo Bill's Vaudeville, Annie Oakley's Wild West Show. It's the second one, Buffalo Bill's Wild West Show. Answers on the screen. Number 3, what was Annie Oakley an expert at? Shooting guns, riding horses, roping cows, or throwing knives? Shooting guns. I bet that's what you said. Number 4, what was the name of the first amusement park near New York City? New York City Amusement Park, Wild West in New York, Coney Island, or Coney Island's Wild West? Just Coney Island. Number 5, what ride was first introduced at New York's first amusement park? A carousel, bumper cars, Ferris wheel, or roller coaster? Remember, it wasn't the Ferris wheel. That was first introduced in Chicago. It was the roller coaster that was first introduced at Coney Island. Number 6, what food item was first made and sold at New York's first amusement park? Funnel cakes, hot dogs, onion rings, or french fries? Hot dogs. Hot diggity dog. Number 7, what sporting event became popular to watch during the Gilded Age? Boxing, hockey, cricket, or golf? Boxing. My dad used to be a boxer. Number 8, What became common during this time that was both a fun and healthy way to exercise? Swimming, fishing, bicycling, or golfing? Bicycling. And number 9, what did women wear so their long skirts would not get caught in the back chain? Bloomers, pants, a split skirt, or overalls? They were called bloomers. Okay. At the bottom it says, explain what A.C. Dixon warned about amusement parks. What was it that he warned about in his sermons? He warned that some of the shows and activities at these parks were immoral and that they might draw Christian young people into sin. So you don't have to put exactly what I said, but it's something like that. They were immoral. Moral means of good standing and of good quality, of good, not quality, of good value. Immoral is the opposite of that. So he said that some of these shows and activities were immoral. Now, did he mean that they were all bad? No, he did not. It's not bad to go ride a roller coaster. There's nothing, that's not a sin, is it? But there were some shows and some other things that were immoral. And not only that, if riding roller coasters becomes so important to somebody, that would be the same as idolatry. And that is sinful. So we do have to be careful with that kind of thing. Okay, so the answer at the bottom is that some of the shows and activities were immoral and that some of the Christian young people might be drawn into sin. And that's what you'll put down there, okay? Something to that effect. All right, that will be all your lesson for today.